Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We will get started here in just a couple minutes. People are logging in and setting up. Looks like we've got, yep. I love watching the participant popcorn. The number just keeps going up and up as people come in, so that's great. That is great. That's good.
Hopefully where all of you are calling in from is warmer than it is in St. Louis. It is sunny, but we only got about 50 degrees out today.
Yeah. We are having, and that will change probably in
I know.
an hour.
Well, let's see. I think it's supposed to be, it's 50 out. Tomorrow will be 60s. We've got mostly 60s for the next week, 40s on Friday. That'll be exciting.
Oh, yeah. That'll be fun. Okay. It's like we'll give it one more minute. We've got people logging in and setting up. Good. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to have an inspiring, uplifting, practically helpful session here with Elizabeth Haberberger. Elizabeth is the president of Dale Carnegie Training here in St. Louis. She is also one of the facilitators for NAED's Leadership Development Program. So we are very thankful to have her time and her content today. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a Q&A button and you will see a chat button. So if you have questions for Elizabeth, please put them in Q&A. And if you just want to chat with all of your fellow participants, then use the chat. And if you don't see the chat, because maybe we only have Q&A, then ignore everything that I just said, and it's fine. We can use the Q&A, but we do kind of want to keep that channel open for questions as we go through. But we are so glad that so many of you were able to join us, and I'm going to hand things over to Elizabeth now. Elizabeth, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Kelly. I am excited. Every opportunity I've had so far to work with NAD or different companies, members of NAD, it's always a good time. So we will jump right in. As Kelly mentioned, my name is Elizabeth Haberberger, and today we're here to talk about stress. But before we talk about stress, Kelly mentioned, right, we've got the chat available, we have Q&A available. One other thing we're going to be using today is our cell phones. So if you would, please just pull your cell phone out. And up on the screen, right down at the bottom, you'll see you're going to send a text message. So this doesn't require any Wi-Fi. If for some reason you get charged like for every text and you don't want to use text, I get it. But if you would, just open up to a new text message and you're going to send the text message to the number 22333. The message of the text message will be Elizabeth Habe 350. It's all in caps right there. It doesn't have to be all in caps in your text message. And when you send it in, then you'll just get a message back that says you have officially joined the group. So go ahead. We'll give everybody 30 seconds or so to text in. If you can't get texted in, that's okay. You will have opportunity to use the chat. I think we have the chat available. Kelly made me nervous when she said we didn't. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So we'll be able to use the chat. If you don't have access to using your cell phone right now, that is perfectly fine. So if you haven't gotten this all the way texted in yet, don't worry. It will pop up again on a different screen. You're just texting Elizabeth Habe 350 to the number 22333. So when we think about what we're going to talk about today on this call, we're really going to look at three things. We're going to talk about the cycle of stress and how we can break that for ourselves, or how we can help our team members or our customers break that. We'll talk about some principles for how we can handle stress more effectively. And then where should we, or how can we focus our energies to be more productive and to be more positive? But to start, we're going to start with something that I bet a lot of us have said at some point, looking at that cycle of stress, probably recently, something along the lines of, I am so stressed right now. I have a lot of stress right now. If you have ever said something like that, give us a yes in the chat. If you're on your computer and you can, how many of us have ever said something like, I am so stressed right now? Yep. Yes, a lot of us have said that before. And so when we think about the cycle of stress, what happens is that it's a cycle. And we say something like, I'm so stressed, or I'm really stressed, or I've got a lot going on. And then we start having these emotions. So if you're in the chat, great. Throw some thoughts in the chat for us as to what emotions do we feel when we say that, right? I'm so stressed. I have a lot of stress right now. I'm really worried about this. Things aren't going well. What are the emotions that we start feeling? I know for me, frustrated is one. Yeah, Fars, you and me together, man. Kim, I love it. Yes, anger, anxiety, fear. We feel sick. We start feeling all of these different things. And when we're feeling these emotions, yeah, Greg, sometimes we feel totally helpless. Like we don't know where to turn. So when we're feeling these things, when we're feeling frustrated, anxiety, confused, helpless, how do we act? When we start interacting with other people, when we start working on projects, things for ourselves, yeah, Amy, we start rushing, don't we? Things might be a little quicker than typical. I know I act, yeah, Kim, you and me, same page, man. Short, curt. I'm much more blunt when I'm feeling some of those things. Oh, David, I'm sure your wife doesn't call you grouchy sometimes. Yeah, we start acting more angry. So when we're acting this way, what type of results do we get? When we're acting rushed, we're angry, we're short, we're confused about things, typically the results we get aren't positive. Typically, we get more negative results. Yeah, we get more mistakes. We shut other people down. They're less than desirable. Yes, Trevor, garbage in, garbage out. And do you know what happens when we start getting these results, these less than desirable results? You know what we say to ourselves? We say, gosh, I'm so stressed out. And it really is this vicious cycle where it just goes around and around and around. And it's not until we can break that cycle that we can really start to manage our stress. Now, obviously, we're talking about stress today because there's a lot of things that have happened in the past month that might cause us some stress, might cause our customers some stress, might cause some of our employees, some of our team members some stress. So we're going to reset for a second and just do a little bit of learning, a little bit of research here. So we're going to do a quick quiz. And this is a quiz that 30,000 people have also done before. So now you're going to need your cell phone. So pull that cell phone out. You're going to go to that message that you sent in earlier. If you didn't get a chance, it's right up here at the top of the screen. You're just going to open up a text message. Send a message to the number 22333, and the message will be Elizabeth Habe 350. So 2 questions. The first question, and all you have to text in is A, B, or C. So how much stress have you experienced in the past year? What would you say? A is a little amount of stress. B is moderate. C is a high amount. If you don't have the ability to text in, put it in the chat for us. Just let us know, A, B, or C, how much stress have you experienced? So while we're doing this quiz here today, this will be something you could also do with your teams or with the people that you interact with. So some of us, it looks like we're kind of teetering between a moderate and a high amount. Some of us are very lucky to have a little amount of stress. So they took 30,000 people, this research study did, and they asked them two questions. One was this: how much stress have you experienced in the last 12 months? Yes, Tad says a high amount. And that's where about 88% of us, it looks like, fall in that either moderate or high amount. And then they asked him one more question. And the second question they asked was this: how many of us believe that stress is bad for you? So again, let's text in. A would be yes, stress is bad for you. B, nope, stress is good for you. So A, B, text in. What do you think? Stress is bad for you? Stress is good for you? It's fun to watch these. There you go. Yep, getting some people texting in. It's like a little battle, right? Like, can the good stress win? Not in this group. Yeah, okay. So in the chat, Don says both. Don, you're lucky you typed in the chat. There's no both option on the texting. Okay, so it looks like the majority of us, about 70%, would say, yes, I agree that stress is, I would say that stress is bad for you. So they took these 30,000 people, asked them these two questions, and then they tracked their death records for 8 years. So it's a little morbid, I know. But they found some very interesting things. There was good news and there was bad news. So we'll start with the bad news. So the bad news, 43%. So people who said, I experienced a high amount of stress in the past 12 months. And yeah, they were 43% more likely to die than people who'd experienced either a moderate or low amount of stress. But don't worry, because that's only part of what they found. Here's the good news. The good news is that was only true for people who said they experienced a high amount of stress and thought stress was bad for them. People who experienced high levels of stress but didn't think stress was bad for them, they had the lowest risk of dying in the entire study. And so when we think about what that tells us, what that really tells us is that it's not always stress that's killing us, that's doing us harm. It's the way that we think about stress. This is a great thing to do with your teams. This study was on a TED Talk by someone named Kelly McGonigal. If you look up a TED Talk on stress by Kelly McGonigal, it's on how to make stress your friend. Walk through this with your teams. It's eye-opening to people to sometimes realize that, okay, it really is about our mindset and our attitude. And so today, when we think about breaking that cycle of stress, it starts with our attitude and it starts with our mindset. So I would imagine that a lot of us here on this call are familiar with Dale Carnegie. We've probably either heard about the company, maybe we've read one of his books. His most popular book is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. He wrote another book, one that people aren't quite as familiar with, but it's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And in that book, Dale Carnegie outlines 30 principles that we can use to combat and manage our stress and worry. So we're going to talk through a handful of those principles today so that we can go back and use them ourselves, as well as help our teams, give our people and our customers some strategies they can use to help manage their stress. So the first one Dale Carnegie talks about is to live in day-tight compartments. So when we think about day-tight compartments, what he's really telling us is that, you know what happened yesterday, you can't change it. And what's gonna happen in 2 weeks from now, you know what, that's 2 weeks from now. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, Tad. So what he's saying is focus on today. Just like if you're on like a big cruise ship. I know maybe I shouldn't say cruise ship right now, but if you're on a big cruise ship, they have all these compartments underneath that are watertight so that if the ship started taking on water, they could drop down the door and then the water would be stuck in one area. Well, Dale Carnegie tells us to do that with our days. Don't worry about yesterday. You can't change it. Don't worry about 2 weeks from now. It'll be there 2 weeks from now. What can we do today, right now? In our office, one of the things we've been talking about is sometimes it's not day tight compartments. Sometimes we might need hour tight compartments. Thinking about what are we doing like this hour, and let me just focus on that and not worry about what I have to do tomorrow. Second, he says to ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? And this is one right now. Some of us might be in a place where we're thinking, I think this might be the worst. I think this really might be it, right? We've had layoffs, business is down, my kids are home. This is the worst thing that can happen. When we ask ourselves that question, what's the worst that can happen? Sometimes it puts into perspective for us that, okay, maybe we're not at the bottom yet. Like, we're not at the bottom yet. And when we think about worst case scenario, then we can plan to improve upon it. If we don't know what worst case is, we can't be proactive. We're only being reactive. So right now, it really might not be much fun to think about what's worst case scenario. But by asking ourselves what it is, then we can say, okay, well, what can I do to make sure that doesn't happen? Or so that when that happens, I'm ready. Then he tells us to fill our minds with thoughts of peace, courage, health, and hope. There's a lot of negativity going on right now, a lot of reasons to think things are bad. But underneath all of that, there's a lot of good that's happening right now. Whether it's manufacturing companies totally shifting their business to make PPE, personal protective equipment for first responders, universities donating health masks, N95 masks, people just reaching out to customers, being able to service their customers in ways they hadn't before. There's a lot of good that's going on if we're choosing to look for it. We have to choose to look for it. Dale Carnegie also tells us to create happiness for others. When we think about creating happiness for others, there's a book called How Full Is Your Bucket? There's a children's book and an adult one. And what it says is basically think of like you have a bucket on your head all the time with like a little dipper, like a ladle. And every day, every person you're interacting with, talking with, you're either filling their bucket or you're taking from it. And so when we think about creating happiness for others, it's how can we focus on them? Instead of focusing on maybe what we're worried about or stressed about, how can we create happiness for others? And then he says, stay busy. Right now, we're probably in a world that's even really busy or really slow. So throw some thoughts in the chat for us. A couple people, what have you been doing to keep busy? How can we stay busy, right? We're in this place where maybe some of the things that are causing us stress is that we can't go to the gym anymore like we typically do, or we can't go on our usual routes. You know, we can't go see the same. Someone's doing a virtual running club. Okay. Yeah, there's lots of different like gyms and places that are doing virtual workouts or virtual happy hours. Lots of different things that we can do. Yeah, Greg, just spend some time on our own development. Oh, Daryl, God love you. Painted the whole house. Yeah, some of us are saying work is keeping me really busy right now. But that's one thing we know is that the more we can stay busy, the less time we have to worry or to be stressed out. Then he says, put enthusiasm into your work. Again, right now, it kind of feels like everything's changed. Lots of things are different, especially if we're a leader right now. If we have a team, or maybe we're not even a leader, we just have peers. If we show enthusiasm, if we come in with that mindset, with that smile, it's going to help our teams, it's going to help our peers to be a little more enthusiastic, maybe feel more positive than they did before. Next, he says, cooperate with the inevitable. All right, so quick quiz just in the chat, scale of 1 to 10. 1 is, I am not cooperating with this right now. I'm still fighting this. I don't like this. I hate this. 10 is like, oh, I'm on board. We're figuring this out. New normal. I got it. Scale of 1 to 10, where would you say you're at? Cooperating with the inevitable. Okay, so we've got lots of eights, eight, sevens, nines. Good. I love the honesty from people. Angela's not digging it yet. That's okay. Yeah. So, what Dale Carnegie tells us is we've got a choice. We can either go with it or we can fight it. And what we know is that if we fight it, if it's inevitable and we're fighting it, all it's doing is it's sucking our energy, it's sucking our passion, it's sucking our mental sanity. Hal Elrod wrote a book called Taking Life Head On. And from that book, he has this motto, and he says, can't change it. And his whole motto in life is to look at a situation and say, can I change it? And if he can't change it, he says, I have to accept it. I don't have another choice. And if I can change it, great. That gives me something to stay busy and do. But if I can't change it, I have to accept it. Which leads right into our next one. Number 8, he says, decide just how much anxiety a thing is worth and refuse to give it more. I am not afraid to say that I cried over chocolate chip waffles at my house a few days ago. I have 2 kids that are home. They're 6 and 3, and we've been making chocolate chip waffles like every 2 days because they're eating these things so fast. And I was getting so stressed out because we were about to run out of the chocolate chips, and then they weren't going to have chocolate chip waffles anymore. And I just cried about it one day. And my husband finally came down. He said, Elizabeth, it's chocolate chip waffles. Like, I think you have bigger things to worry about. And he was right. But how often do we do that? Do we get caught up in those little things and like we just can't get, yes, I know they're eating everything in my house, Ryan. But we have to be able to put things in perspective and say, how much anxiety is this worth? And only give it that much. He also says, you know what? Do the best you can. And right now, maybe our best is very different than what our best was a month ago or 2 months ago. Some of us are probably not in the office anymore. Some of us might not see our teams on a daily basis. We might not see our customers as often. Maybe you're trying to homeschool 2 little kids. Maybe you have your husband or your wife or a partner sitting across the table from you doing work. Your best today might be different than it was a month ago, and that's okay. As long as we all remember that we're all doing our best. And then finally, he tells us to count your blessings, not your troubles. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on this one shortly on counting our blessings and not our troubles, because regardless of how many troubles we have so many more blessings in our lives. So take a look at this list and think about the one on this list that you need. The one on this list that you need to start implementing that would make a difference for you and for your teams. And in the chat, give us a number. You don't have to type the whole thing. It could just be a number, but let us know what's the one that you need to start using. Or maybe you're using it and you need it to do it more. Yeah, counting our blessings. Absolutely. Yes. Look at it. Lots of 4s, focusing on others, creating happiness for them. Yeah, I see lots of 7s cooperating with this. Yeah, done, right? We've got to say, hey, how much is this worth? And am I spending too much of my effort on this? And if so, just stay. So you know what? That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Make yourself some chocolate chip waffles if you can. Yeah, a couple 1s, day tight compartments. So these are 10 of his 30 principles that he gives us for how we can stop worrying and start living. There are 20 more of these principles. You can get this whole book. It's like you can get it on Audible. There's lots of different places you can get it, but would highly encourage you, whichever one you're interested in, dig into a little bit more. Now, we're going to come back to that study, right? Because when we think about why we're really talking about stress right now, and it goes back to science. So I would imagine a lot of us have heard of oxytocin. If you've heard of oxytocin, just give us a yes in the chat. How many of us have heard of this thing called oxytocin? Okay. Yeah. A lot of us have probably heard of it. It's called the cuddle hormone for those of us who maybe haven't heard of it. It's very nice. It's that thing that makes us crave physical contact with people. So we want to, right, hug them. What it does is in our brains is it enhances empathy with others and it makes us more willing to go help them. So when we think about oxytocin, that's what most people think of. What a lot of people don't know is that oxytocin is a stress hormone. And so when we think about, using these principles, it's not just to make us feel better. It's actually science. It's brain science. It's a stress hormone. And here's what we know. What oxytocin is trying to do is when we're stressed, it's released. And that oxytocin is trying to push us to go seek other people. Because what we know is that when we're stressed, we shouldn't be going through it alone. We should have a network of people we can reach out to. And that's part of what's making this experience right now so difficult for people because we're feeling like we don't have that social network. But it really does. It's pushing you out, trying to get you to talk with other people about your situation. It's trying to increase that empathy, make you crave that physical connection or that social connection with other people. And not only that, but it's good for our bodies. Oxytocin has a calming effect. It helps us with sleep. It's actually a natural anti-inflammatory. So it reduces the swelling in your blood vessels and it can repair the damage done to your heart from stress. So how ironic is it that oxytocin is released and then it does all of these things that help our bodies to recover from stress? So when we're stressed, our body gives us exactly what we need to be able to handle it. It's up to us to then go out and seek that support from other people. So think about our teams right now. Our teams need us more than ever right now. Our peers, our customers, they need us more than ever right now because we're all feeling some of that stress. One way we think about that is in almost like a formula. So we'll kind of wrap up with this. So E is event. So most of us have had some events happen over the past couple weeks, right? An event, a change. We're working from home. Customers are different. Meetings look different. And then there's our reaction. So, how are we reacting to these events? And it's when we put those two things together that we see the outcome. Here's the thing most of the time, we don't have control over the event. What we have 100% control over is our reaction. And so we have influence over the outcome. We might not be able to control it, but we can influence it by the way that we react. So when we think about using these principles, or when we think about that oxytocin, right? We've had events happen that we don't have control over, but we can decide what's the outcome that I want from this. Maybe we say, oh, you know what? This happened. This isn't going to go well. Business is going to go down. Nothing's going to work. Well, the outcome that we would have wouldn't be very positive versus if we had a reaction to say, you know what? Things are tough right now, but I bet I could find a way to connect with my customers differently. Or I bet I could find a way to connect with my team or to communicate with my team in a way that would make them feel engaged. The outcome would be so different. So think about that last principle that we talked through, right? Dale Carnegie said to count your blessings, not your troubles. When we think about counting our blessings and not our troubles, that falls right into this middle piece of the equation, the reaction. If we're focused on our blessings, our reaction is going to be much more positive, which is going to then influence the outcome to become much more positive. So let's pull out our cell phones one more time. Pull out our cell phones one more time and think about a blessing. Think about a blessing you have in your life right now and text that into us. It could be professionally. It could be personally. You could type it in the chat. Yep, Mike, your kids. Yeah, family. Absolutely. And what you guys will notice is that as we're texting in, the more people who text the same word, the bigger that word will get. So obviously, we've got a lot of people who are very thankful right now for their family. That's definitely a blessing we have. Yes, we're employed. We're employed. That's a blessing. The sunshine. I know. A goat? Okay. Nature, yeah, we can still get outside. That's a blessing that we have right now. Our employees are big blessings. Yeah, Tammy, the health. Yeah, everyone in our family is good health. We are healthy. Life in general, our team. Yeah, love. That's a big blessing in our life. I like it. Food. Hopefully, you're getting chocolate chip waffles at your house. We're missing them at my house now. So many things that we have. I know, I don't know. Someone must have a goat and they're very thankful for it, which is great. Be blessed with that goat. I hope you get good goat cheese from that thing. So when we think about these blessings, right? Focusing on our blessings and being able to count our blessings. This is one thing we can do with our teams every day. This is one thing we can do with our families every day. One thing we can do ourselves every day. And even if we can just leave with that one principle, that alone can start to shift our reaction, which is going to influence the outcome of all of this that's going on. So we'll leave with this quote from Dale Carnegie, and then we'll do a couple Q&As if we've got some. Dale Carnegie says that knowledge isn't power until it's applied. So we've gotten some knowledge today, right? Maybe it was that TED Talk or that survey we did. Maybe it were some of those principles or that equation. It's only powerful if we go out and apply it. And so that's our challenge now, is to take these principles, to take the content we've gotten today and go apply it, because that's where the true power lies. So my information is also there on the bottom of the screen. As Kelly mentioned, I've been working with NAD and some of the members for over a year now. So we love working with members. We do lots of different development. You can feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn if you just want to connect. You can also shoot me an email. That's my cell phone. If you really wanted to call me, you could call me or like send me a selfie or something. Feel free. But we'll go ahead. We've got about 2 minutes, it looks like, on my end, so we can open up for Q&A. Kelly, do we have any Q&A?
Not yet, but if you guys want to go ahead and use that Q&A box.
Or you could just use the chat.
Yeah, either one. We'll watch them both. If you have questions, or if you just want to share your key takeaways from today, or what you might bring back to your team, or what you're going to remember. Elizabeth, I wrote down your best today may not be the same as your best was a month ago, and that's okay. And I think it's going to live on a Post-it note on my computer screen right now. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Any final questions? All right. Well, as you guys leave today, just remember that final quote from Dale Carnegie: knowledge isn't power until it's applied. So take what you've gotten on this call today and apply it in your life, and you'll see your stress and the stress of your team members go down. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Everyone, if you have team members that you would like to watch this webinar and they weren't able to join us today, the recording will be up soon. All of our webinars, recordings, all of our COVID-19 resources are linked from our homepage at naad.org/resources. So all of that content is free and available, and we have more webinars coming. This recording will be ready in just a couple days. So Elizabeth, thank you again so much.
I forgot to stop by sharing at the end, Kelly. You had a slide.
No, you are good. No problem. Oh, it looks like you did get a couple of... No, our Q&As are thank yous. So.
Oh, well, yeah. Those are easy.
Fantastic.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.